yeah, for sure. Definitely. You always ask me what's happening in station start class.
That's my mom.
Oh, yeah.
Right? I can't use it back to matter with it. You just say everything to show
Okay. There was only one time the first year
Okay, it's 6:31. I'd like to call the meeting in order. School board meetings are open to the public and public is welcome to observe. However, this is a meeting of the Board of Education and not a public meeting. So public comments will be limited to those who submit written requests to address the board during open forum prior to the start of the meeting. The only other time that comments from the public are allowed during the meeting would be to answer a question from a board member. We appreciate your cooperation. Last month during the open forum on October 19th, the 4-day week was brought up. Individuals asked about the possibility of returning to a 5-day week, and any data was available. Item 7.6 on tonight's agenda is discussion of the 4-day week, which provided that information. Next item addressed during the open forum was that fall baseball was going to be canceled because of the start of football. To my knowledge, there has been no discussion about canceling fall baseball. The current issue with baseball is that we are currently without a head coach and the administration is working to fill that vacancy. The last item was a request for the bus company to provide curb service to a daycare. At the request of a board member, there will be discussion on busing during the December meeting. Okay. First item of business is approval of the agenda. You want to make a motion for the agenda?
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda as written.
Okay, motion from Naomi. Do I have a second? Second from Lori. All in favor, raise your right hand. 6-0, the motion carries. Now moving over to open forum. I've got quite a few requests. As part of the open forum, you'll be allowed to speak for 5 minutes. Okay, the first person to speak is Megan Shepherd. Megan, you have 5 minutes.
My name is Megan Shepherd. I know I submitted some information and data to the board previously, so you might have got a little bit of my background and experience. But I just wanted to speak to you guys this evening on behalf as a former secondary educator who also taught a 4-day week for 1 year, as well as just a community member and a parent. Just one thing I really wanted to emphasize during the open forum is that I just wanted to quickly go through kind of the timeline of how the 4-day week came about. I just feel it's something that just needs to be voiced again to the general public. I know people listening, the recording is a great way we're able to kind of go back and see what was discussed, but just wanted to kind of go through so everyone is kind of aware once again. The end of August 2019, a survey was sent out to parents and staff members. That survey did consist of a information in regards to football, junior high, volleyball, as well as the 4-day week. Within that 4-day week, there were 2 questions. One asked if it was in favor, the other one asked if you did move to a 4-day week, would you need childcare? Then moving on to the board meeting of September 16, 2019, I just wanted to make aware to everyone that these board agendas are always available to the general public on the school website, as well as posted on the administration door, always a good, usually like the Thursday or Friday before that board meeting takes place. And in fact, on the September 16th board meeting, 7.3 listed on the agenda is going over all of those survey results, which you are all aware. The community, parents, and staff survey included those 3 different areas. Also available to the general public on that website is going to be the board minutes. Those are always typically posted within a day or 2. And within those board minutes, if you can see who is present as well as what various topics were voted on, basically action motions that take place. So on September 16th, survey results were included on that agenda. Again, in the minutes, there was no one available, no one that came forth to speak in open forum for that September 16th meeting. The results were discussed at that time. The news article was posted on September 18th, 71.5% of the community in favor of 4-day week, 27.4% stated they would need childcare, as well as 80% of the staff was indeed in favor at that moment. The board meeting upcoming on October 21st, 2019, agenda discussion action item. What's to me when something is discussed and an action item is listed, it means it will be discussed heavily. Action could take place instead of motion being put forth, which did happen that evening. So it was very well aware to the public as well as staff and everyone that this was something that was certainly going to happen. Again, from the minutes of that 4-day week, no one spoke in open forum to voice their opinion at that time. A motion was made by Mark Meyer, and that evening there was a unanimous 6-0 vote in favor of the 4-day week. Mr. Sam Niederhelm was not even present for that evening, but we know if you viewed the candidate forum back in spring, he was certainly, he did voice that he was in favor for it. So at that time, I even listened to the audio, no rebuttal. I'm very confident within the board that they probably did a lot of deliberation, a lot of good research, that this was very well voted on for a good reason. The news article, October 30th, 2019, report of the 4-day week came out into the newspaper. Board meeting on November 18th, 2019. Again, no one signed up for open forum as seen within the public minutes from that. December 2020, another survey was issued in regards to the 4-day week, which has been last December. Still, at that time, 65% of the community was still in favor. Overall staff, about 92.2% in favor. Board meeting agenda on December 15th. Discussion and action item 7.4 again was the 4-day week. Again, those agendas are available to the public well ahead of time. Within the minutes of that December 15th meeting, 2020, there was discussion of survey results that stated 4-day week within those minutes to the public, and yet no one came forth in open forum at that time. The results of that agenda, the results of that survey still were concluded with that. There's no it right up in front of me, but it was still indeed a large percentage still in favor of that 4-day week. I don't have the straight specifics, but it still was community in favor. Then again, board meeting on January 2019, calendar items were stated on that publicly available agenda. And then within those minutes, no one came forth in open forum to discuss any retributions in regards to the 4-day week. Personally, I feel that it was a great decision made by board members at that time. I wanted to voice my timeline of how the 4-day week came about, so everyone within the public is generally aware it came about the right way. It was discussed. I know a lot of platform and discussion on that board forum last spring said it was not, but it's publicly available in any of the archives that you do search back for. I'm very confident in the board's decision. Those individuals are well-educated people.
Megan, your time is up.
Parents, okay?
Next person is AJ and Cassie Womack. 5 minutes.
All right. My name is AJ Womack, and this is my wife Cassie.
Hello.
We are just wanting here to discuss once again returning to a 5-day work week. Last week or school week. Last time I was here, I told you I'd come back more prepared. I am. So just doing some literature review on like schools moving from a 5-day to a 4-day school week. We're looking at as far as student achievement, the literature is inconclusive. Some schools and districts that went to a 4-day went up, some went down, but once again, and then there were some that didn't find any significant changes. So that was there. As far as teacher retention, the literature states that many schools cite teacher retention as a justification for a school day work week. However, the effectiveness has yet to be shown conclusively within the literature. As far as the labor force, it was shown that to be a negative employment effect on mothers of 2 parents in the household. This is from Ward 19, insinuating that mothers would be expected to watch children on days when their kids are not in school. Ultimately, this decreases the labor force within the school district. The budget gains, that's also been cited as a reason to move to a 4-day school week. The literature clearly shows that it's between a 1.2 to 2.7% gain of budget. Okay. And more from a socioeconomic status. Many studies show that socioeconomic status is the main factor predicting academic success. Going to a 4-day work week forces dual-income families to consider other educational options. The loss of these families could negatively impact the school as a whole. Some local empirical data regarding what's going on.
So child care with 4-day week. So after school care can range, including Monday care, can range in between $75 to $115 a week per child. And then with a 5-day week, it's usually about $50 per child. And then from our understanding, the budget savings for Lennar 2 was $17,000 last year. And teacher retention was another reason for moving to a 4-day week. And between 2016 and 2019, the teacher retention, they would lose about 11.6 teachers a year. In the 2020-2021 school year, there was 15 teachers that did not return. Parental concerns, child care providers are not equal to educators in providing education to school-age children. Children are missing out on a whole day of education because an hour and a half during the day is not extra during the day is not the same. Some elementary school kids are having like extra recess, which is great, but it's not the same as being in the seat on Mondays. Going to 4 days a week gives the impression that the norm is a 4-day work week, and that's not the case. Many children qualify for free and reduced lunch, and are they eating on Monday? They're not here at school. They're not getting what is provided for them. A longer school day provides less time in the evening with family and extracurricular activities because students are getting out later. With a 3-day break, there's a concern for loss of knowledge retention, which takes classroom time to regain, thus less time to work on application of higher cognitive functions. Did Lennar 2 achieve its goals by going to 4 days a week? Did we lose less teachers going to 4 days a week? Well, 15 is greater than 11.6. So I don't know, did we meet our goal? I don't think so. Budget, did the school save money? With multiple students, we think at least 6 went to St. George and you get paid roughly $4,000 per student from DESI. That is $16,000. So the school saves $17,000 in their budget, 16 and 17.
24, actually, they
Oh,
lost,
24,
they lost
yes.
$7,000.
Oh, I was
With the
doing
loss of
4
those
with
students.
4 students, sorry. Recommendations, our recommendations to the board. If the goals of the board were not met in the 4-day work week, or 4-day school week, we thought returning to a 5-day week should be considered. If student learning is the main goal, test scores should be analyzed. And if parental involvement is important to education, then a survey of current and incoming parents, because we didn't live
Thank you
here
for your
before.
input. Your time is
I have
up.
one more thing. And we also think teacher and
Your time is
faculty
up.
and staff agency should be considered, and they should be surveyed as well.
That's it.
That's all.
Want to make sure the teachers are heard as well.
Yeah.
Sorry, that takes an extra 30 seconds.
Okay, next up is Tiffany Wolf.
I did not prepare anything. I'm just going off of our household alone.
That's fine.
My kids, they're more rested. Monday when they get to school, or Monday when they wake up, they do have chores, but we have, errands, dentist appointments, doctor's appointments. We don't have to worry about half days, early out days on Wednesdays, which always seem to be problematic for everybody. We have consistency. The only days we have off are the days that we have for holidays. Now, my kids do say that they have a lot more time to spend with their teachers. I don't really know how that is, but they seem to be able to talk a little bit more and have more designated time with them. So my middle one was struggling 2 years ago. She's no longer struggling. She has good grades. The oldest one, they're A students. I don't think they would enjoy going back to 5 days at all.
Thank you. Randy Wagner.
It's 4-day school week, it's been discussed all the way back to 2008, 2009. We actually, I was on board at that time. That was an item that we did talk about at that time. But at that point in time, it was for budget reduction. And we did not have any academic data to back up a 4-day week. Because only one school district had done it for a year. And another school district has done it just that year. So at that point in time, we did not feel like we had enough data to pursue that as an option for the school district. At that time, we were looking at budget cuts, and it was still held in reserve for something to be used. Sam's around here, he remembers that too. But so it has been talked about all the way back to then. Now, whenever the school board was presenting this 4 days a week, I remember reading an article about it. And there were several schools saying that there is academic data. You were reported, people that were on the board at that time were told that the test scores were either the same or they went up. One school district went down, but they had just started. So you have the academic data was presented to you on that decision that was made. We didn't have that luxury at that point in time. I do know your staff is very much wanting to stay in your 4-day school year. You had staff move to this district because of it. You have staff that may leave if you have to go back to 5. Now, that shouldn't necessarily be all your decision for staying in 4 days. You have that academic data. You're probably not going to get any academic data for a while. It is a used by COVID. So you really kind of need to fill that out. But you have difficulty at this point in time with subs. Your 4-day school week helps you out with that. Because you're struggling getting subs. I know that, because my wife tells me about it all the time. So, and you're probably struggling in your non-certified staff to keep them, you know, keep vacancies low on that also. So, yeah, and last year there was a significant amount of turnover. But there's retirements, there was people whose spouses moved away and got a job in another town, so they're gonna move. So those were the things that were going on last year. So I don't want that number was just, it's really, last year was a really different year on that. Plus you probably had some, they were done with the COVID stuff. They had enough. So this, you know, as she's brought up, this discussion's come up multiple times. Decision was made. You have a large group of people in the school district that do not go back to 5. You do have a group that does go back to 5. But please use the data that you have available. Please use the input from your staff, from the parents that are in favor of it, and listen to the ones that are opposed. But give it a fair shake. Realize the things that you're dealing with. Staffing issues is a deal. It is a problem. So I've been in your shoes. I've sat right there where Dennis is sitting. I understand your guys' decision and your plans. But as a community member, I would just like to give you some information from the history of the school district.
Thank you, Randy. Next up is Gwen.
Hi, my name is Gwen Solotrup. We left the area and started our youngest child at a different school district. And then we moved back in the middle, right before COVID hit. So we did not have the opportunity to come speak, you know, and go for or against. And I won't say I'm for or against a 4-day or a 5-day school week. I just don't think the due diligence was done or the chance was given for parents to actually express themselves outside of this arena, which is a huge problem. Because you get up and you speak and then you have to wait a month for any type of return on what you're asking. And there is some data to back up the fact that we had quite a bit of turnover. There was only 2 people who retired last year. All the rest of them either moved to a different area, left to a different school district, or were asked to resign. So it was not just people retiring. I don't know why all of the other teachers left. I don't know. I know that there was something that occurred at the end of the school year that I think precipitated part of that. I'm not privy to that. But I'm going to talk to you as a parent of a 2nd grade child who is not challenged in school. He's just not. He's well advanced above his peers and things, and that's because we work with him very diligently. We work with him every Monday. He has 2 to 3 hours of school time, even though he's out of school. We use enrichment programs that are online. The school doesn't offer anything like that. They need to start looking beyond what saves money and all of the other things, and they actually need to look at what's academically correct for the children, and their social and mental well-being. Because right now, my child struggles with some behaviors, as Ms. Kingsley will attest to. He is a hyper child. I will 100% admit that. He is a handful. However, if he's challenged and he has things to keep him occupied, he doesn't have those behaviors. And I think it's sad that we punish kids that need more challenge instead of help enrich them. So I'm going to ask you guys to reconsider asking again. I'm not saying that you guys have to change back to a 5-day week, but I want you to really consider beyond just the staff concerns or things like that. and actually look at what is academically, socially, and mentally right for our kids at this point. And we're losing hours already. The state statute that changed, that knocked down a lot of school hours. So we have definitely decreased hours significantly from when we used to be 5 days a week and it was mandatory 174 days a year. At this point, we've lost approximately, we're down to, I apologize, I should put this out. So we're losing about 58 contact hours of instructional time per year right now. That's down from the previous year. So I don't know where we draw the line, but you guys really do need to reconsider it. And I also wanted to talk to you a little bit about the background screening that's going to be coming up. This was not my only hot topic. I've read through the statute, and I'm going to say that you guys need to revisit that, because a screening volunteer is not someone who goes in for a party in a classroom. They're not going to be left alone with teachers or with students. It's very definitively defined in the Missouri statute, and you guys really do need to look at that, because you're costing parents a lot of money, and it's time consuming away from work as well. And that's not a fair burden to put on them whenever it can just be revisited and fixed. And I do have other school districts that do it differently. You guys could also utilize the Family Care Safety Registry if you do want background screenings for those parents that are coming in as a visitor to be in the classroom with the students. It's a $14.50 one-time charge, and then you can pull background screenings with their permission as much as you want to. So you can do it annually free of charge going forward. It's a free service. It's offered through the state after that $14.50 registration fee is paid. So you guys need to start looking at all of your avenues and stop being funneled in at this point, because everything seems to have a one-set mind, and I don't know where that's coming from. But consider other options and other potential things that can help in the area.
Thank you, Mike. Cassie Sneller.
So mine's not about 4-day school.
No.
But mine's about background check. So safety in schools has always been an important subject. The world is a different place than it was even when I was a kid. We all have a past, all of us, but some have a little more of a violent past, and those are the ones that we need to be concerned about. People are moving into this district on a regular basis. We have had criminals move into our district before, and this will continue to happen. The background check should show that the parent or guardian had a violent criminal history or drug dealing conviction on their record. We want them as role models for our classroom, for our kids. In a class party, there are different activities going on at different parts of the room. The parents who volunteer, not visit, volunteer for parties may be with a group of kids while the teacher's with another group of kids. They're not technically left alone with this said volunteer, but the teacher is most likely focused on their group and not 100% on the volunteer with the other kids. There's no cameras in the classroom, and anything could happen. As far as grandparents' day, health fair, assemblies, etc., those are more considered visitors, not volunteers. People who come to the class parties are considered volunteers as they volunteer to help the teacher out with departments. Not too long ago at the old school, there was a lockdown issued on the last day of school because a dad showed up and left out the back door with his student who didn't have custody of, but he was there for class awards, and with the chaos of the day, the teacher could not keep tabs on where all the students were, which parents went with what students, and when went missing in split seconds. We shouldn't put that on our teachers to keep track of. The schools, not just ours, have readjusted our lives and taught our kids how to react in the event of a school shooting. We are prepared and educated in that department. Why do we not want to get as prepared when parents come into our classrooms? I'm going to be real with you. Child sex trafficking is on the rise, far more, unfortunately, than elementary school shootings, that's for sure. We have the perfect opportunity for something bad to happen if we let anyone and everyone into the building with our children when we are understaffed and overstressed. It had mentioned that sex offenders are not allowed in the school, but if we don't know they're on the registry, who's stopping them? Because they're not supposed to come into the school, doesn't mean they're not supposed to do whatever they did to be on the registry either. That's not going to stop them from coming into the school. It only takes a split second for something to happen. I mean, even if it's not the full background check, even
Family care safety, right?
something, some sort of check.
It is a full background check.
Well, but it's not where the parents have to pay the money and take the time.
It's not. It also checks sex offender, employee disqualification list and registry. It checks child abuse and neglect cases, so it covers.
We're
like
just
multiple-
letting anybody come in, who's gonna, without a list of the parents, who's gonna know if they're on the registry, who's gonna know? And, I mean, I have a kindergartner, little girl. You never know what could happen in a split second.
Thank you, Cassie. Okay, that's all the people we have signed up for forum. Thank you, folks, that provided input to the board. And we'll work on the reply back. Some of the information that you talked about will be discussed actually later in this meeting. Moving on to approval of the consent agenda.
To approve the consent agenda.
Okay, I have a motion from Mark. Do I have a second? Second from Han. Any discussion? All in favor, raise your right hand. 6-0, the motion carries. Item 5, approval of transfer and payment of bills. Anybody have any questions about any of the bills? Do I have a motion to approve the transfer and payment of bills?
Motion to approve the transfer of those.
Motion from Lori, do I have a second? Second. Second from Sean. Any further discussion? All in favor, raise your right hand. 6-0. Motion is approved. Reports. The elementary report. Ms. Kingsley.
Good evening. Attendance continues to kind of tick up just a little bit. We're at 307 here in November. Reading, we're always touch base on reading. We have some professional development this week. Dr. Brown is back with us and our teachers for 2 days this week. They'll be working on data analysis of our recent progress monitoring, as well as teachers have just asked for some different things this week. So some monitoring is going to happen and some teacher meetings and so forth. So kind of a teacher-driven second day for this week. Saxon phonics and spelling continues to really make a huge impact on our students in the lower grade levels, and we're seeing a lot of growth in our first and second grade. We're really pleased with what we're seeing there. Yesterday we had professional development day. Committees met on a variety of different things. We also looked at some priority standards that have come out recently on DESE and science and social studies and how we can embed those in our work that we're doing. A lot of time was given for team meetings and different kinds of discussions that went on yesterday. It was a very, very good day. Got a lot of positive feedback from yesterday. Health screenings, we had those. Nurse Lisa coordinated that back in October, at the end of October, and those were for all grade levels. So we did some health screenings there. Wanted to mention Red Ribbon Week in October. OCA CAT funded our speaker, Brandon White. That was very well received, and we appreciate that very much. And a lot of fun activities during Red Ribbon Week, and culminated with Halloween. And we had just our hallways filled with volunteers. It was so great to have so many outside community members in and handing out candy to kids and trick or treating. Just such a fun time for us. So I was so pleased with that. You'll see on the bottom of the list just the number of people who donated and came and were present in our building that day. Such a fun time. Parent teacher conference, I want to mention that we had 99% attendance on parent teacher conference, mostly in person, but occasionally some of them were just reaching out by phone or in a different way. But I was really pleased with just that parent teacher communication piece was really strong and continues to be in our building. Big thank you to Three Rivers Electric. They came out on the 26th and presented about electric safety and conductors and insulators and all sorts of things, really bringing science to life with our upper elementary kids. And it just was a really fun learning opportunity for them. I want to mention PTO and just the great work that they're doing. They had a fall festival October 29th, and it was just very well attended. We'll find out a little bit more at our meeting tomorrow night. Anybody who can want to come to the PTO meeting, we would love to have you. They're really gaining momentum all the time, and we'll find out kind of a little bit more about the results fundraising wise. But otherwise, it was just such a fun event, and so many volunteers came together to make that such a good opportunity for our kids and our families. And so I wanted to mention them. Had Veterans Day concert last week, and that Mr. Tucker and Mr. Vick did a wonderful job. First and fourth grade, they sounded great, did a wonderful job during the day in the all-school assembly, but also that evening, just really a great night and just a packed house of parents, so much support from the community. We appreciate it so much. Several upcoming events are just listed there. I left off the first grade Thanksgiving Day play. They'll be doing that on the 22nd of November, but lots of fun things as we head into December already. But any questions?
Thank you, Tracy.
All right, thank you.
Okay, the high school report, Mr. DQ.
You all got my report. I don't have anything to add, but I will take any questions if you have any questions over there.
Pictures always informative. And Billy's not available for the athletic report.
Right, it is in your folder, but he's doing supervision tomorrow, so he's not.
Anybody have any questions?
Is there a good community turnout at the Veterans Day Assembly?
Um,
To make it-
It was okay, not as much as we thought. I think people were still a little shy of the COVID and everything. We were supposed to have a few more veterans that showed up. It was a great assembly, but we'd like to have more people show up. And it did.
Just glad to have-
Anything to report on football this month?
Yeah, there's a lot. We actually just purchased 92 helmets yesterday or over the weekend for the youth. We actually got a great deal from Blair Oaks. We got to purchase those helmets for $10 a piece. All of them are going to be usable for at least 5 years, if not 8 to 10 years. Then the oldest set of helmets were 2016. I think there's only like 25 of those helmets that were that old. We had over 30 helmets that were brand new, never been in use. So that's going to save us a lot of money on that. Fundraising is going great for the whole football together. I think they're close to reaching their goal. We still need to get out and encourage that to happen. Right now, we have between fourth grade all the way up to going to be seniors. We have over 102 athletes that say that they will participate in football. So that's huge. We got some data back from St. George that I think Mr. Shepherd shared with you that I think 21 of the 22 students now for next year are planning on coming to Lynn. So that's a huge bonus also as well. We're still looking at moving the runways for the football field outside and then starting the irrigation system as soon as possible, get that done, and then get the laser grade done by the first or the end of winter. So we're in the process of purchasing our varsity gear for next year, JV and varsity gear for next year. We really need to get that purchased by December 1st in order to make sure we get it available to us by June 1st, just because of the COVID and the demands on it. If we don't get it purchased by December 1st, we won't get it here on time for us to have our first camp. But all in all, it seems like there's a lot of excitement going on. We're getting a lot of kids in the weight room, a lot of people working out, a lot of talk, a lot of vibe going. So I'm excited.
Thank you. Superintendent's report.
You have my report as well, and a lot of it's repetitive from what the principals have already shared with you. Just a couple things I want to point out. Mrs. Trust took over our mentor mentee program this year, and she's doing a fantastic job of meeting with those teachers. One of the things that she recently did was had Michelle Chrisman, who is our Compass Health provider, present to those teachers about how to support the mental health needs of your kids. And that's something that we're continuing to see and will continue to see. And then also how to support your own mental health. So she's done a really nice job of trying to make sure that she provides topics that are relevant to them as well. We are, at least on our second round of unit observations, the administrators are at this point. So we are getting those done. We did have our music safety inspection on October 5th. We had 6 very minor issues that we have to address, and everything else was, one issue, for example, was they now want 2 fire extinguishers in the weight room. So when they were here 3 years ago, we didn't get written up on that. There was only 1 then, but this year they want 2. So just things like that. They want 1 on each end. We had some end caps on the playground equipment that were missing. So they wanted us to put some end caps on the playground equipment. So very minor issues. I think we have about 3 of those issues still left to finish, but overall the safety inspection went really well. The high school roof is finished. Technically, they did do a walkthrough yesterday, and they now have a punch list that they have to complete before final completion. There are a few issues that we want them to fix before they are completely done with it, but for the most part, it is done. And Steve's working on getting ceiling tiles replaced and built.
Thank you. Moving on to discussion action items. First item is the FFA report.
All right, so to start off, we have about 83 members right now. That's including our graduate members. So if you are out of high school and you're under the age of 21, you're still considered an FFA member if you pay your dues. So we have about 83, including those graduate members, up to when they're 21. There's about 73 of them in high school right now. Our downfall right now is we have about 20% of our ag students are not enrolled in FFA. So when we do stuff in class, it's kind of just a little bit different with talking to certain students instead of the whole class, if that makes sense. And then this year we have 32 8th graders that we have seen through our classroom, which is awesome. We both really enjoy having 8th graders year round, being able to talk with them and kind of recruit them for our program. I think that's kind of the same across the ag or the vocational spectrum. Last year we were able to have 8 FFA American degrees, 3 proficiency area winners, which all moved on to state. One of them actually got a $100 scholarship for the way she filled out her application, which was awesome. We had 3 this year compete at our area fall speaking contest, which we try to encourage students to make a speech and be able to uphold a 6 to 8 minute speech in front of a panel of 3 judges. 3 of them competed at area. There was lots of stiff competition this year with upperclassmen, and we took 2 freshmen, and they did really, really well. They just didn't get to move on to districts. We were very well represented this year at the Osage County Fair. We had 6 steer exhibitors, 14 swine exhibitors, 4 ham exhibitors, 1 bacon, and then 1 broiler. So we were very well represented as an FFA chapter at the Osage County Fair. I think we probably have the highest numbers out of all the FFA different chapters in the county, which is really awesome. We also had 14 students take projects to the Missouri State Fair this year. We came back with lots of gold ribbons, which are the top ranking of the spectrum. We also came back with a grand champion wreath that one of our students made in class this year. So that was very awesome. Some of our strengths are our recent competition results. We continue to see kids wanting to be involved in CTE competitions and coming out and studying and with Mr. Shepard and I and achieving goals that they didn't see the set forth freshman year, but they're upperclassmen now and they're starting to push themselves. We're a very active chapter. We've participated at chapter, area, district, state, and national levels. We hosted our blood drive this year. We had 35 units collected, which was awesome. That was a lot better than last year with our COVID numbers. And a lot of kiddos participated, and we only had to turn away 1 student. We had canned food drive that we just finished up. We do Osage Caring Baskets, Food for America, which is usually held with Grandparents' Day, but this year we changed it for our underclassmen in the elementary school. And we kind of bring animals in and they get to pet them and they learn where their food comes from and that sort of thing. Our area of growth, we want to try to choose more meaningful activities for the kids and trying to teach the students to be more self-starter. Last year, we were able to host our contest day since we had to skip out from 2020. Last year we held it And we were able to pretty much max out, as you can see on the paper, about 50 kids at each level that we had, and that was our cap that we discussed with administration to keep our numbers safe with still having our protocols for COVID. All right, Mr. Shepherd, you want to do
Yes,
this?
sure can. So also, I want to introduce Ms. Hans, Logan Hans, and Ms. Hans. Ms. Hans, she's my student teacher this semester, she's from Missouri State. Oh, okay, sorry. I don't- Ms. Hans is going to be with me until, what, another 2 weeks?
Yeah,
Three, okay. She's been with me since the start of school, and she's doing a fantastic job. She's never met a good acting teacher, I think, one day. Mainly because I've taught her everything she knows. So, she laughs, and she should. She's doing really, really well. Let's see. Finally, we got to go national convention because of COVID. We get to go last year in Indianapolis, Indiana. We had 60,000 people there, 60,000 kids there every year. So we got to go this year, and the kids had a blast. We usually take our top fundraisers and some of our officers and those sorts of things. Once again, I think this is year number 10. I think they're 11 or 12. I think it's year number 10. We're partnering with Classic Buildings across the street here. If you guys aren't aware of Classic Buildings, they're a huge employer here in the county, but they're kind of hidden, so you may not know them. They're kind of behind Conoco and then Dave's Pizza. But they ship portable sheds all over the country. They bring a lot of money in, but the last 10 years, they've allowed my ag structures class to build about 5 8x10 sheds, or 8 by 12 sheds, and then once in a while we'll make a bigger one. Like they donated that big long shed back behind the school to put the food in. So they donated that, and so they were a really great partnership. And once again, they've done this again. And while we have been able to sell a shed here or there and make a little bit of money, we don't like that's not my main goal. But my main goal is my structures kids learn how to frame. They learn how to frame structures because of the lumber that's donated. If you guys aren't aware, lumber is a little expensive. It was, but so the other thing behind that is they get to learn, and they also, if they want a job, they can go over to Classic, and if they say they're in my class, they probably get a job at Classic Buildings. So that's pretty cool. And most of the buildings that we build, they actually donate. I found this out last year. Like they gave all of our sheds that we built away to like some nonprofits. So, and do what? And then this year they're going to donate one to us to raise money for the kids to go to WLC. So we're going to be over to if you guys need tickets or tickets, we got those available. Okay. Let's see what else. Last summer, Miss Nearhelm last summer, Miss Nearhelm got a grant, Pioneer Seed, of $2,500. And so then we coupled that with some state money, I believe. She was able to make some updates to the greenhouse relatively inexpensively. So that was pretty awesome. Miss Nearhelm, I work in the summer, so I don't know if a lot of people know that I teach doesn't work in the summer. We do work very hard. We visit 100+ kids a year at either their farms, their places of work, or farms and places of work. It's called their supervised ag experience. So we did 100+ visits there. We have a lot of kids that are doing real well in those kinds of areas. Let's see. We both attended our yearly MBA or Vocational Agriculture Teacher Conference in Springfield. Had a great time. It's a great time for us to fellowship with some of our ag teachers from around the state, kind of get some new ideas and kind of get our batteries recharged for the coming school year. This year, also, we're going to take 10 kids to Washington, D.C., the Washington Leadership Conference. Miss Nearhelm's been fundraising for like 2 years.
Yeah.
And it's getting cheap. It got canceled the last 2 for COVID. So I think we're finally going to be able to take some kids this year. So hopefully we're going to be able to pay for most of their trip, and they're going to be able to go to Washington, tour the nation's capital, learn some leadership skills for a week with a bunch of other kids throughout the country. Let's see. I also want to say one thing. I want to thank the board for voting 4-day week. This is my 19th to 20th year of teaching. I'm really good at my job. I enjoy being around kids, but I was done. I was so sick and tired coming to work, not having enough time to plan my classes and having a decent break to do the things that I enjoy doing. Because of the 4-day week, it made me stay in education. And I wanted to thank you for that. And if you go back to it, I'll probably get out. I will. I mean, it's really recharging my batteries to want to be a good teacher. And really, a lot of people think, well, you're not in class, you're not teaching kids. That's wrong. Okay. a better rested and a better well-planned teacher is way better than a teacher who's strung out and not planned for the day, and, and doesn't have time to be with her family. Because most teachers on the weekends are great papers. We're planning their classes, I guarantee. Guarantee. And we have to bring lots and lots of work on this. So thank you for that, board. I hope we stay with it, because if we don't, I'm gonna look for another job. Okay? Do what? I could build a shed in my sleep. I know what I'm doing. And let's see, one other thing here, let's see. Oh, we also wanted, I got our other vocational programs, FBLA and FCCLA, and we wanted to say to the board that we sure would like it if we could, get some consistency in the way that we, if kids join our classes, that it's the expectation that they join our student organizations, FFA, FCCLA, and FBLA. It's very, very important. We don't have that here, and so we really would like to be able to say, hey, if you're gonna take our class, we expect you to join the organization. However, if you're gonna have trouble paying the dues, don't worry about it, we'll figure it out, because we always do. Okay?
And we've had kids come to us before that say, hey, we can't pay our dues, but we really want to put forth our effort, and they'll come in and take in the shop, or they'll do it on a payment plan, or we just figure it out for those kids, because it's the experience that matters for them. So that's kind of why we want to have you guys consider that for us as well.
One other thing, I didn't become an educator to babysit kids.
FCCLA report.
I'm not sure why you always put us after them. You should go first. Because it's no fun to go after Terry.
Save the best.
That's right, that's right. All right, so this year, FCCLA is down in membership. We're down in membership. We had 61 last year. We're down to, I put 26, I'm up to 30, but I just got back from maternity leave, and that was a huge factor. I had my president doing all of it, and my son was helping some, so I see that going up a lot. Last year's accomplishments, our Life Smarts team is our first time ever doing Life Smarts, and they made it to the national level. If we were able to go to nationals, we would have been in Tennessee. They were the top 16 in the nation. They'll be competing tomorrow because they're in the top 40 again this year. So we're hoping for that top 16. If they move on to the top 16, we'll be going to San Diego. I went to California a couple years ago. I'm not excited to go back there, but we'll make it. This year we have the regional president for Missouri Region 13 and the regional recreational leader. That's Allie Wagner and Emma Kusick, and they're doing an amazing job. We attended and hosted our conference here back in October, and we had tons of schools come. We had a really good turnout. I think it was due to nobody's been able to go anywhere, and we finally got a chance to. We're going to be doing a cookie fundraiser again this year, even though I swore I would never do this again. We're going to try it again because it went so well, and they're going to do hot chocolate mason jar things too. So cookies, order some cookies. We're going to do the chocolate covered strawberries like we do every year for Valentine's Day. We are adopting a family again this year. We typically do a smaller family in our community. The kids have been preferring to donate money, and then the officers go out and buy the gifts rather than everybody bringing in random stuff. It's kind of easier for us. I plan on having another 1 or 2 students run for regional office again this year. It's gonna be hard because I've had Allie every year in high school doing it with me. So I'm gonna be losing her. It's making me sad, but we'll make it. We're gonna have star events again this year here. Since we shouldn't have to, since we have president, we don't have the vice president, but our vice president of our region, they just got a new advisor, so she feels a little more comfortable giving that off to somebody else. So we'll be hosting that here. I might ask some of you guys to come judge if you're available, so we always need some. We're encouraging our students to apply for legislative shadowing. It's a program for our juniors and seniors, and they get to go talk to our senators, representatives about our program, what they would like to see change, things like that. And our blood drive will be in March. I think it's the 11th. I just looked it up. We're going to go to state leadership conference again this year. Hopefully everything is going back to normal. And that's in March at Tantera. The kids always love to go there. I think it's a good way to spark interest in FCCLA. So it's fun to bring some kids there.
Thank you. FBLA.
number of members are, 20, excuse me, this year. We actually received I'm gonna skip down to this year. We received a message from Desi that your chapter has earned one of the 2021-22 Stronger Together membership campaign incentives. Your chapter has maintained their membership from last year, even though the number is 20. That's good for FBLA, I think. And so I was able to make, with the help of the members, maintain that number. So I'm pretty proud of that. So they get a water bottle and laptop stickers for that. Last year, I had 5 students make it to state. They advanced from district to state. And I had 2 more advance, but they had to be in the top 10 to move on, or to districts to move on to state. But that's a good number. I still have that goal to make it to nationals for one of my students. So that was last year. This year, I already talked about our recognition that we received from Desi for maintaining my membership numbers. We are currently this week having the food drive, and the class or first hour in high school that wins has the most food donated gets the ice cream party. So hopefully that's going well. We're going to pick those up Friday and donate to a local food pantry. Christmas gift basket for a family in need. During Christmas, we'll be doing that. And then our district testing is in December. And we'll find out in December who all made it to state. So, questions?
Thank you. Gifted program.
You have the gifted program report in your packets. Our gifted teacher is not here tonight, but she did provide the report. So if you have any questions about that, this is actually reliable. Yeah, you're trying to answer them. I'm getting ready to do. What is she doing?
CSI.
Yeah, she's getting ready to do CSI forensics type unit that I think the kids are really excited about.
Okay. Moving on to item 7.5, background check discussion.
This was on the agenda last month and we decided to discuss it again this month. One of the things that I was able to do when we went to the mayor conference last month, they have a legal forum that's an open panel and you can submit questions to the legal forum. And so I just submitted this question about what we were discussing. And Dennis was there as well. Mark was there for a little while, but he left before our question got answered. And they basically said the more background checks, the better, even if it's a class party, for example. You have to be able to guarantee that they're not going to be alone with students. So if you're going to allow them to use your restroom, then you can't guarantee that they're not going to be alone with students. So I did have the opportunity to ask later kind of what they would consider a visitor in schools. And they said things like, if they're coming in to, let's say well, an example would be our first grade class is getting ready to do their Thanksgiving play. So they're just coming in, sitting in the bleachers, watching the presentation and leaving. There's no interaction with kids. But unless you can guarantee that they're not going to be interacting with kids, then you're better off to have a background check on them. So that was the legal answer.
Have we found any schools that have taken the extreme position we have? I mean, I looked around a while and I couldn't find any that took the extreme position we're taking right now.
It's kind of all over the place, some do, some don't. I can tell you the district that I was at before, we've been doing that for 10 years before it ever even came out in statute. So it just really kind of depends on the school and the area. Some do, some don't. You know, one of the things that's always a concern to me is when kids see an adult in school, they automatically assume that that's a trustworthy adult. So even if something doesn't happen at school, let's say the next time they see that person is at the park. And in their mind is going to be, hey, I know you, I saw you at school, you must be okay. It's that whole grooming process that's a concern. And I did some research just on numbers. There are 37 sex offenders registered in Osage County. 20 of those have a Lynn address. I don't know all of them.
But we could look it up and see what their names are. That's something we could keep track of.
But I would have to know that they're coming. I wouldn't necessarily know that if we don't say ahead of time that they have to have a background check before they can come.
Don't they sign in when they come in?
Yeah, but then that would hold up the process because we'd have to check everybody that came in.
So, one of our speakers, there's an interest, I mean, I don't know if they're, what that is, but the Family Care Safety Registry. And, I mean, if that's accurate, could we run it'd take a couple of days at the beginning of the year, run every parent through there, and then we have a list of every parent that's checked out, they come to the door, and if they're on the list, they're good to come in. That seems like maybe a good compromise between the positions, that
Right
we
now-
do that kind of thing.
Right now, our board policy says we have to use the Missouri Automated Criminal, the MOC system. I don't remember what the whole acronym is. So I'm not opposed to using Family Care Safety Registry. People use it.
I mean, could we use it the way I just kind of described it or not?
The question for that would be, is the district going to pay for all those?
So it's not is it a per lookup or is it just one flat cost?
It's a per person. So it's almost $15, 14.
Would you like me to address the question?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay, so I worked at the Family Care Safety Registry. It was one of my jobs whenever I worked at the state of Missouri. It is a $14.50 one-time charge for registration. After that, you could pull as many screenings as you would like. So all nursing homes are required to use it, assisted living facilities, any in-home service providers that do like care of the elderly or disabled, mental health institutions. DYS uses it for the youth facilities. Foster parents have to go through that background check. It pulls from the MOC system. It's not a fingerprint check, but it does pull from the Highway Patrol MOC system for the actual criminal background history. It also checks the sex offender registry for the state of Missouri with the Missouri State Highway Patrol. It checks the employee disqualification list and the employee disqualification registry. One's for mental health and one is for like adult abuse and neglect, and it pulls all child abuse and neglect backgrounds as well. So if they have any files with the children's division, it will show, yes, they were, they abused their children or neglected them and they had it on the case.
So for $15, we could check every parent if we wanted to.
It's per person,
It is per
$14.50
person.
per person,
It is
yes, but it's a one-time charge.
Point being, we
So-
wouldn't have to do it yearly. Like,
Correct, you sign up one time, so you pay $13 to have a fingerprint check ran with Missouri State Highway Patrol every year. Because the way I understand policy now is that has to be pulled every year if you don't do the FBI check.
Right. If you do the fingerprint check, it's $41.75 and that's good.
But it's $13 every time you go to the Highway Patrol and ask for a criminal background check. It's $13, period. If you pay the $14.50, you're gonna get that anyways, and plus you're going to get the additional sex offender registry, child abuse and neglect, and all of that. It's $14.50 per person every year. No, one time.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah, it's
So
so
I
that you
think
can,
to answer your question is, yes, it's possible, but to run every parent, the district would either have to pay for that or every parent would have to be willing to pay $14.
How many parents do we have?
Oh my gosh. Yeah,
How many
600
students?
600
kids,
students,
600
two
some
parents.
kids.
So we probably have 700 parents.
So,
I just know both of my kids, I think in one of their classrooms, there was one parent at the Thanksgiving party and the other classroom didn't have a single parent. And I'm all for finding a compromise because I think that we need to encourage parents when they have the opportunity to come into the classroom. And I think there was a lot of confusion about that. And so I think most parents just stay away.
and part of that's because we opened facilities 2 weeks before Halloween parties. So there wasn't a lot of lead time on either. Because up until that point, it really hadn't been an issue because nobody was allowed to come in.
I think the other issue is how long it would take to get that information back. Because we could have kids who have grandparents who live out of town that come for a visit and want to go to a class party. And I don't know what the turnaround time is, but I don't want to keep grandparents from being able to participate if, they're in town.
If you do the $14 one and you go online and do it, you get it back the same day. If you do the MOX one where you have to get fingerprinted, we've been seeing, with a couple of exceptions here and there, we've been seeing those results come back in no more than 2 days.
One other question I've seen from a parent was, if they had a charge, like a drug charge, they possessed marijuana like 20 or 30 years ago, are we going to be permanently disqualifying them from being allowed to go to a class party?
No, we have some of those now, and it's a case-by-case basis. And if you look and they did something 20 years ago and they haven't had an incident since then, you know. And like with Halloween parties too, for example, we really did try to be very common sense. So for example, we have a parent that works for Children's Division. Well, we know she has a background check and it's a clean background check. She works for Children's Division. So we tried to take those kinds of things into consideration as well. You know, if they could provide me a family care safety registry one for this year, we took that for this year. So we tried to be very, like I said, common sense about it. And if they had a clear one that they could show had been done this year, we took that.
So if we check everybody, it'd be about $8,000 to $9,000. But then after that, I'm guessing it'd be like $1,400 a year. Because you'd be checking your kindergartners or kindergartners that didn't have brothers and sisters. And then anybody that came into the district, which would be $1,000 a year after that.
And not everybody would agree to be checked, I'm sure, because they wouldn't want to come into school because they do have to sign for us to check them. So it probably wouldn't be quite $8,000 because not everybody would want to be checked. Now, I will say that, and I will have to double check on this. I know our policy says, excuse me, that they have to have the fingerprint background check if they're going to be staying overnight.
I think I'm okay with that.
So, but I'm not opposed to doing a family care safety registry. If they'll have it. Actually.
We want to make that kind of investment to make it easier for people to go to school.
Well, number one would have to redo board policy. I personally am of the position that board policy right now, I don't know if a person that's visiting for a class party would necessarily be defined as a volunteer, but I understand the concern of wanting to make sure that they would never be alone with students, because that would be a concern. I would be open to amending board policy to do a different type of registry, if that's something other people are interested in doing. What are your thoughts on this? I know you mentioned you've had some of that background with Cub Scouts too.
Yeah, I mean, we always do the background checks through scouting. I think it's required annually now, so. And I just recently did the $41 line just because it's a one and done, and I know I'm good for how long, so. Cool. Yeah. I understand that it could be a hardship for some people that to do the $41 if they're gonna want to go on and be a volunteer, but if the registry works as well, I'm okay with that, as long as we have some check.
So the cheaper way to do it would be just make it on, we'll pay for it, but it's, you ask us, you send it whatever, a form or an email or whatever, and we'll pay for it.
That's.
And it probably
totally up
costs
to you
half,
guys.
it probably costs half the money at that point, because half the people aren't gonna.
Our next
care.
party is Christmas, yes, so, that would be- I mean, not that there aren't other things before then, but that's probably the next room party where parents would come into that, so I just need to know what direction to go.
So I'm assuming with the registry, you would have to have a consent form just to run their names, and that's all you would.
And Hannah's right, that it also required to change the board policy to include that as a authorized background check. Now, to do a change to a board policy, it's a 3-month process because there has to be 3 readings.
So in the meantime, we still have to have something.
And again, we tried to be very common sense about it. So if somebody comes to me with a family care safety registry background check, or like Gwen did, Gwen sent me permission so that I could go on and look at hers so that I could see what it looked like. So if they want to give me that, and like if they're already registered because they work for an employer somewhere and they want me to go on and pull it, I can do that. Or if they want to provide me a copy that's been run this year, I can do that. So I mean, we tried to be very, like I said, just taking into consideration that we just opened this back up and this is new. And then we could continue on that route until board policy is changed. Bring that next month as the first reading.
I would probably write it as whatever this family care safety or equivalent.
Yeah.
So whatever we decide to use, we can use it, or whatever somebody comes to us with. And if we're doing that, I mean, do we want to agree to pay for that? I mean, it's $14. I mean, that one's cheaper, but if we're going to be doing the query, so are we doing the query on that one? I guess on the family care safety registry. I mean, I guess we would anyway, right? We would be the one running it.
But then that, I do think that brings to question, because I mean, it'll get asked is, are we gonna go back and reimburse those that did the background, like not necessarily the fingerprint background check one, but the $14 one this year?
I would probably say no. I mean, just given that I get that asked all the time when I put in something, a new benefit, where you're gonna go back and reimburse me for that. You really can't go down that road. I would say moving forward, we would pay $14.
I don't know. I don't agree with paying for it. It's something that's gonna last you from kindergarten through the whole, if you really wanna go to your kid's party, I think most people are gonna be able to fork out the 14, 15. I don't think the school should pay for that.
Cheaper than the alternative.
Yes.
I think we're receiving the benefit though of knowing who's in our building, so I feel like that there's value in paying for that. And I also think that we need to make it as accessible as possible for our children's parents to come into the school.
So otherwise, they gotta come in with a way to pay for it. So, I mean, it's not something you can do.
If a parent wants to volunteer to pay for it, they can pay for it, but I think that we need to come.
Themselves online. Yes.
Yes.
I was gonna say, it's not that it has to go through us. They can pay
They
the
go
$14
online,
and
pay
50
the
cents
$14
and
and
register. And then they're
They
registered.
can tell
for
whoever they
life and
want to
can-
go look
yes.
at it.
Like my daughter's a nurse. She does family care safety registry. She paid $14.50 one time when she was in nursing school. And any employer she's been at since then, she just has to sign permission for them to go on and get.
I wouldn't fall on the sword for it, but it does seem like if a parent is volunteering to come in, we're getting more benefit out of it than it's costing us. We're getting $14 benefit out of it, I think, to have parents engaged in the classroom.
Maybe
That's-
it's
that's my
something you should
position.
take case by case if they truly can't afford it. Make some kind of, I don't know, I just don't think that's something we should agree to just pay for everybody.
Then maybe we should go back to defining people who come to class parties as visitors.
I'm okay with that too, because Frank, I mean, I don't,
That's our
the
plan.
fact that most of the schools are not taking the position that we're taking.
I've talked to parents from Columbia and Jeff. I don't think there's another school that's requiring background checks just to come to a class party.
There are some.
I just haven't encountered anybody, so I think it's pretty uncommon.
I think it's gonna head that way. I think we're just being ahead of the game.
Columbia Public Schools has a really nice write-up of what they determine volunteers and visitors mean. It says for visitors, these individuals may be on school grounds to interact with their children or attend activities such as classroom parties or assemblies. They may also be assisting the school, and this is underlined, with supervision by a CPS employee, such as a room parent or classroom parties, mentoring or tutoring students, assisting the office of making copies, or some other similar activity. Visitors do not require a background check. I thought it was spelled out well.
Welcome to my dilemma, because we can't even all agree on this board and this community. So you guys are gonna be the ones who have to decide that. I'm doing what we decided was gonna be done in early 2020. If you're gonna change that, then that's gonna have to come from the board.
And when I asked the board last month why they did it, and the board said because it was law, was their interpretation, which clearly is not law. We just, I think it was presented that way, that it was law. Now, I could be wrong about that. Maybe I misunderstood that, but that's the way I understood that it was presented to you when I asked it before.
I think it was under advisement from the lawyer that we have, right? So not that it was law, but it was just
The statute.
statute, and that was their interpretation of what was right.
Which their interpretation was an extreme one.
Until you have that person who shows up in the classroom for a party, and like they said, the teachers, you've got the teacher working with this group and somebody working with that group, and a teacher doesn't even see sometimes a child poking or hitting a kid in the classroom because there's so many there's things all going on. And I mean, it's nobody wants to believe that someone like would come into our school and do something like that, but a child can be grabbed or things can happen pretty quickly. And we don't, and as far as we know, we're not gonna be able to get everybody. It's not gonna be foolproof, because you're gonna have people that haven't made the registry. They haven't been caught yet. But
You make a great point. I mean,
you can't,
you're not gonna.
you're not gonna
and that's-
catch everybody,
you're not,
but
regardless.
if we do our best, and I think that that's all we can do. It's covering the school. I mean, really, you have to look at it, and it protects our children as far as we can. I don't
Recognize. May I?
Go for it.
Go ahead.
Hey, Cindy State Kindergarten teacher here has taught in Jefferson City prior. Had a parent come to my door just out for murder of his child's parents' spouse. Terrifying. Locked the man from entering my classroom. There wasn't a background check on him to keep him out of the building, but people that have made poor choices have children that are in our schools. And yes, they want to see them. I don't want to be in the position with nothing to back me up to keep other people's children safe from someone else when we don't have to take that risk. Thank you.
So I'll make the motion that we pay the $14 background check for those parents who would like to have their, I'd like to have that paid for.
Have a motion. Sean?
Are you talking about amending board policy and going through the?
After, I mean, it sounds like we'll use discretion for the next 3 months, but I think we also need to amend the board policy.
So like, if there's a parent that wants to go ahead and get this check done.
And they don't want to
and
pay
they send
for it, we'll
They
pay
send
for it.
it to whatever, they can go to the Christmas party. Because we would be allowing them in if it was a different type of a background check. Is that what you said? You're willing on a case by case basis if they were to go through this other registry?
We've done that.
Would let them
yes.
go to the Christmas party, even though we haven't fixed our board policy yet.
We've done that. Like I said, just trying to be accommodating and knowing that the point of the background check is to make sure that they're safe.
I'll
So,
second your motion. That's fine.
You said the $14 one, I'm
The
assuming.
$14 one. Yeah.
$14.50.
For life one.
Have a motion and a second that the school will pay for the 1450 background check. Any other discussion? Okay, all in favor, raise your right hand. Three, opposed? Three,
87 people, right?
well, order you have to have four, you have to have a quorum of the board. So what we're gonna have to do with that, avoid delaying the meeting any further, is the superintendent will take care of amending the board policy. We can start the first reading at the next month meeting, and you can reintroduce your motion at the December meeting. So change board policy for next month. Okay. Item 7.6, 4-day discussion.
So in your packet, you have information where I gave a history of how the 4-day week came to be. Data on our 4-day week. There was a teacher survey that was conducted by a teacher in our district this year. That information is in there. Megan Shepherd's board presentation is in there. You have a letter from Ashley Morfeld that's in there. You have last year's survey results that are in there. You have the 2019 survey results in there, as well as the 2019 responses. There, at that time, there were 33 school districts in the state of Missouri that had a 4-day week. I sent a survey to all 33 districts. 20 of those districts responded. So that information is in there, and on that is also their APR scores. One of the things I do want to just make sure everybody has an opportunity to see is one of the things that Randy talked about, and that is definitely an issue, is subs. And in 2019-20, we had 341 absences through October 31st. You can see in 2021 how many staff absences we had, and in 21-22 how many staff absences we had. So all things considered equal, we saved ourselves 126 subs that way. And there's not, I don't even know if we've had a day this year where we haven't been short subs. And that's on a 4-day week.
What's the 21-22 staff absences if we're not even, are you averaging that?
Through October 31st.
Okay.
So when this was presented back in 2019, the board was told at the time it wasn't going to be a huge cost savings. About 2% is what we estimated, and that's about what we saved our first year. One thing you can see this year, we pay $100 a day for subs. So even with the subs that we have right now versus the subs we had in 1920, if we had paid $100 a day then, you can see the savings there. And again, then I did expenses, and again, this is through October 31st because that's all the data I had was to compare, because I don't have the year data for 21-22. But you can see the comparison for electric, water, and sewer, and then the total. And then the other thing that you can see is a comparison of other expenses as well. So again, it wasn't anticipated to save a lot of money, but it is saving us probably about 2% a year, and 2% on a $7 million budget is, you know, a couple teachers. So the other thing I wanted to show was our September student membership counts. Since the 1920 school year, till now, we've actually raised almost 30 students. So you can see our enrollment has gone up every year. And of course, discipline has gone down. You're not in school one of those days, so that makes sense. And our attendance has remained relatively stable, our attendance percentage. So last month, some data was requested, so I wanted to make sure I provided that in response to the data request. One of the things that again, this was a teacher-initiated survey. This was not initiated by administration, but there were 64 respondents of faculty and staff on this survey. 89% said yes, they prefer this 4-day week over the 5-day week. That's 89% of faculty and staff. Again, some of the reasons being dedicated Mondays so they can work on stuff that's school-related stuff without taking away family time. Being able to use those Mondays for appointments. You guys can definitely read through all of that. But would you consider seeking employment elsewhere if we went back to a 5-day week? We had 36.5% of our teachers, not just teachers, faculty and staff, that said yes, and 44.4% that said maybe. And then there were a couple other questions about, would you give up one of your Mondays to volunteer your time for childcare? That one, 65% said no, 30 said maybe, and 4, well, almost 5 said yes. And then do you use your Monday to help aid in your teaching preparation? 78.7% said yes, they use that time. 8.2% said maybe, and 13.1% said no. Some of the things that we did in relation to childcare this year was we did compile a list of people willing to provide childcare. When we did the survey last year, there were just less than 10, I can't remember the exact number of families that indicated that they might need childcare. So we made that list available this year. And then if they needed childcare, it was up to them to contact the person, but we did have that list available as well. So that is one of the things that we did to address the childcare issue. And again, you can see the comments and raise those or read those as well. And again, you have survey data from last year, which still again indicates favorable for a 4-day week, and then the 2019 survey results. So one of the things I will say is that normally in December is when I start working on the calendar for next year and having meetings with faculty and staff to get input, so that then in January, I can get community and parent input, so I can have a draft to the board by January board meeting, so that we can approve the calendar in February. So unless I'm told differently, I'm going to assume I'm still creating a calendar for a 4-day week, because I usually start that process in December.
I've been in contact with Dr. John Turner. He's a professor at Missouri State University in Springfield, who's done extensive research into the 4-day week, not just in Missouri, but across the United States. And I asked him a question about how many schools have gone back to a 5-day week. And his reply was that of 120 schools in Missouri that are on a 4-day week, there's only been one school that went back to a 5-day week, and that was Lexington, Missouri. And the reason Lexington, Missouri went back to a 5-day week is they have a VOTEC program that they share with other schools in the area, and the 4-day week wouldn't meet the schedule of the other schools.
I think Dennis, I think you make that point well. I mean, once you go to a 4-day week, it's hard to turn that ship around. And AJ, I don't want to discount anything you said, because I have a lot of the same concerns. The flip side, the long term, I mean, you can't go flipping back and forth. And so, I mean, long term, I'd like to see the results on test scores. And that's what it's really going to mostly come down to me. If we see a decline in test scores, then we're going to do an about phase. But other than that, I don't know if there's anything right now that would make me want to vote otherwise. And I don't think there's anybody on the board, which, I mean, I'm glad you're all here, but we didn't have any discussions about having a discussion about going back to the 4-day week or a vote on the 4-day week, or there hasn't been any discussion between the board, anything about the 4-day week other than the comments last month. And I don't think you were asking us to vote. You were just sharing some feedback there, but I think some folks took that a whole nother direction, which was maybe a little bit disappointing, but for me personally, this is a longer term discussion.
Well, and then like your email said, with the year of COVID, all the numbers are skewed so bad that you can't actually get accurate.
No, you can't make a judgment. We don't know how long, if that's going to be something that a year or two that corrects, or if we're going to be a decade of this. I don't think so. And I do think we can look at other schools and we can see long-term what they've done and maybe more in depth, look at similar schools to our size and that kind of thing, see what the impact on test scores. I'm sure that I know that data is out there, but again, I think I want to see the impact here over the next year or two before I really care to bring it up again. I don't know what how the rest of you feel.
I don't believe we've done it long enough to know whether it's good or bad. We need to give it a much longer chance.
I mean, for the only thing I'd be really interested in is a truly structured Monday program, because my fear deep down is it's the people that don't speak up or they can't afford childcare, that maybe those kids are getting left at home. So I do have some concerns there, but at the flip side of that, if you don't speak up and ask, it's hard to help you. So, I mean, I think that's my biggest concern. It's the food insecurity. It's the kids that are just getting left home alone without any structure at all. Those are the kids that are going to be hurt. And we don't have a way that I know of to really get to those kids and figure that out. But if I were going to say we should be doing anything, it'd be looking at a structured Monday program. If I were going to recommend we look at anything for next year and get some community input on what that might look like and how that might work.
Yeah, I was just gonna echo your comments. I think that most of us were a little bit surprised that we're having this conversation right now, in the sense that I think a lot of the community thought we were planning on voting on it tonight. And most of us didn't even know that it was gonna be on the agenda until late last week. I don't think anybody on the board would want to vote on something like that without a lot more community discussion, without a lot more time, without the time to see test scores. I will agree. I think it's a longer term discussion and definitely not something that I would want to make a change to on a moment's notice, or, without putting a lot of time and getting a lot of input back. So I will echo all of your comments. I think that we'll proceed as normal. This will be something that we'll be looking at. I think a Monday program is probably something that might make sense to look at, but I agree. I don't know what that would look like, so.
Okay, that discussion ended. We're going to move on to item 7.7, approval of DHSS grant contract.
As I shared with you guys previously, we did get a $144,000 grant through the Department of Health and Senior Services. The grant contract is in your packet. It is pleasurable reading. So we just need to approve the contract.
So this was for so that we can do the testing and.
You can actually use it for anything. So what they did was schools could apply to get $200 per faculty and staff member through the Department of Health and Senior Services for COVID relief. And you just have to be able to tie your expenses in some way back to COVID mitigation strategies. So we've got some of our nursing salaries coming out of there because they do a lot with COVID mitigation. We've got some of our custodial salaries. We're looking to buy, hopefully, a couple of pieces of custodial equipment that we need that would be very beneficial in cleaning. So we're hoping to do that. Privacy screens for nurses so that when they are doing testing and that kind of thing, they have a way to keep it more private. So just things like that. You just have to be able to tie it back to COVID mitigation. This is different than your ESSER money in the sense that this isn't instructionally related. It's mitigation related.
Is this the same monies that we were discussing to the extra secretary?
Yes. Now, what I did with that, because it's harder to tie that position to COVID mitigation, is again, what we've done with ESSER, we just shifted nursing around and added that position. Yeah. This is just the contract. They, as you know, with any state program, you have to lengthy contract. So this is just approving the contract for the money that they've already told us that we can have.
Move that we approve the contract not to exceed $144,000.
Motion from Sean, do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second from Mark. Any other discussion? All in favor, please raise your hand. 6-0, motion carries. Item 7.8, approval of the candidate filing period.
Just to make it very clear, this has changed this year per state statute. The candidate filing period for municipal elections, board elections is now December 7th, 2021 through December 28th, 2021. It used to carry over into January. It no longer does that. And so from 8 a.m. December 7th, 2021 through 5 p.m. on December 28th, 2021 is now the filing for board elections.
And need a motion to approve the candidate filing period.
I move to approve the school board candidate filing period.
Okay, motion from Mark. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second from Sean. All in favor, raise your right hand. 6-0, motion carries. Item 7.9, ESSER revenue discussion.
I just had a request to provide an update on where we were with our ESSER money. In May, I gave an update on ESSER 1, CRF, CARES Act, Access, CARES Act, Transportation, and County CARES Act money that was spent in fiscal year 21. So all of that money is gone. Fiscal year 22, we have $311,000 in ESSER 2 money. Of that, 275, 345 is going to regular salaries and benefits, and then student support, which is our tutoring program. I have budgeted $35,655. ESSER 3 money, our preliminary allocation is $690,706. None of that has been budgeted at this time because none of it has been appropriated. We were notified late yesterday afternoon that DESE recently realized that there was a stipulation in that money that it has to be allocated to the districts by March, I can't remember the exact date, March 2022. If it's not appropriated and distributed by then, it all goes back to the federal government. So there was a lot of speculation on whether or not the legislator was going to appropriate that at the beginning of the legislative session or at the end of the legislative session. If it's not done by that date in March, it all goes back. So, I mean, I think they probably will appropriate that money as soon as they can.
Will we have a year to spend it or 3 years? to
No,
spend
we
it?
actually have
A lot of it goes to 25.
2024 or 5, I can't remember exactly, but yeah, several years. We also have the opportunity to apply for a teacher recruitment grant, a grow your own grant, and that is $10,000 one-time money to help. They're trying to figure out how to get more teachers to come into the teaching profession. So one of the things the administrative team and I have talked about is starting here. I know we used to have an FTA program. We don't now. We would like to start that back up, and we actually would like to start a mini version of that program in the elementary and start really trying to help kids see the benefits of being in the education profession. So just using that money to provide stipends for that, because again, it's one-time money only, but you don't have to spend it all in 1 year. Again, you have a couple of years to spend it. The other one is the teacher recruitment and retention grant, and that is a $25,000 grant. Again, it's one-time money, so it's very hard to do a whole lot with that. So one of the things that we had talked about as an admin team, teachers do a lot of things outside contract time. They attend ball games, they attend community events, they work the gate, they work the book, they work the clock, they participate in professional development, all of that stuff. So just assigning points for different things, and when they hit a certain point level, they get a little extra money. It was just trying to figure out a way to get that money back in the hands of teachers, but it's not something we can do as, we can't give them all a raise because it's one-time money. So we can't do a whole lot with it. So that's kind of neither one of those have been approved yet, but those are possibilities.
Is there some way that we can try to reimburse teachers when they have to substitute teach during their plan time?
We already do that.
How are we keeping track of that?
They turn it in every semester. The teachers turn in what plan time they have substituted for, and they just turn it in and we pay it by semester. We've done that as long as I've been here. I don't know how long before that we've done it, but we've done it for several years.
Okay, next time on the agenda is 7.10, set the December meeting date.
Our December meeting date is right now scheduled to be on December 21st, 2021. It's a day that school isn't in session, so there may be patrons that are traveling. So I was going to see if you wanted to set it for a different date. I put December 16th, that's the Thursday prior to what our normal Tuesday meeting would be. My good buddy Elaine can't be here that night, but if that's when you want it, we can survive without her. Or we could do it on the 14th, and so that's up to you guys.
Won't be available on the 16th.
Okay. Are you available on the 14th?
I am available on the 14th.
Is everybody else available on the 14th? Yeah, let's go.
Can I get somebody to put that in the form of a motion?
I move the next board meeting is December 14th at 6:30.
Motion, Sean, do I have a second?
One second.
Second from Naomi. All in favor, raise your right hand. 6-0. That goes on to announcements. The next regular board meeting will be December 14th, 6:30 at this location. With that in mind, I'll entertain a motion to go into closed session.
I usually have some text.
I move that we go into closed session to discuss topics allowed in state statute 610.021. 11.1 approval of closed session minutes, 11.2 discussion of personnel matters.
No, Mark, it's item number 1. Legal, 3 personnel, and 13 personnel records. 6. 11.1 is just a paragraph.
I haven't even got to that. Okay. I was still reading, but yeah, let's do that.
I second the motion.
Motion from Mark, second from John. Roll call vote. Mark,
Yes.
Lori,
Yes.
Anna,
Yes.
Naomi,
Yes.
Sean,
Yes.
yes for me.